Welcome, everyone, to Programmatically Correct Mondays edition. This is the second time I'm going through this because this morning I woke up motivated. I was like, today I'm going to kill it. All week, I'm about to kill this week. I come in front of the stream. I use StreamYard to live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So I come in front of StreamYard. I'm like, yes, lips popping. Everything is popping. I'm ready to go. I got my content ready. It's going to be amazing. I go through a whole 30 minutes of amazingness, y'all, and forgot to press go live. So fortunately, Instagram got a version of it, and Clubhouse also got a version of it. Well, the audio version of it. So this is just a quick recap of this morning's conversation for everyone else. So this will be published Monday, September 13th, on LinkedIn, YouTube, on the Programmatic Digest YouTube, and then on Facebook, Programmatic Digest Podcast Facebook account. So with no further ado, welcome to the Programmatically Correct, okay, where we help you demystify, the programmatic media space. This is a session, 20 to 30 minute session, where we talk about one specific or two specific top trendy headlines that's going on in the programmatic media, but we don't only stop there, like what's going on. We take it back further. We go way back. We identify the origins. We break it down and give you fundamentals refresher on the way and how it affects us now in 2021 and again in the future. So today's edition of the Programmatically Correct, we are talking about the cookie crumbling of Google's cookie crumbling. So with that said, in the 3 to 4 Programmatically Correct session, we'll focus on, again, demystifying each of those topics, giving you highlights and refreshers. But also I want to point out that if there's something we're good at in this industry is adapting. So even though we're reviewing this today, next week, tomorrow, or minutes from now, a latest announcement might be published somewhere and we may not hear of it. So take account of this publication was done on September 13, 2021, right? So with that said, let's talk about today's topic, which is Google's announcement to get rid of third-party cookie. So this announcement, as a refresher, this announcement was made sometimes in January 2020. Let me make sure that I'm recording. Okay, good. Sorry about that, everyone that's actually watching this. I just want to make sure, okay? I just want to double check everything and anything. Okay, great. I actually did change the microphone, so now it should be a little bit better quality, hopefully. Okay, so back at it. So Google announced back in January 2020 that they were getting rid of third-party cookies, and then in Q1 and Q2 of 2021, they announced that they were delaying till 2023 when originally it was supposed to be 2023 instead of 2022. So what in the cookie crumble did they say? So what is the problem? Like, if you don't know what's going on, this is it. Chrome would phase out, which is owned by Google. Google Chrome would phase out support for third-party cookies in their browser within the next 2 years. Again, when this announcement was first made, it was back in 2020, and they delayed it another 2 years. So it's about 3 years total here. And it's starting with trials on conversion measurement and personalization by end of 2020. So by end of last year. And note, why is this important? Let's take a highlighter here. Chrome holds over 65% of browser usage, followed by Safari. So that's a lot of people using Chrome. So that's a lot of opportunities that we may be missing with this announcement. And if you ask me where I got this stats, I Googled it, okay? So let's take it back even further. What are cookies? You know, Google's getting rid of them, but what are they? Like, we kind of understand, but do we understand? Originally, HTTP cookies are pieces of code created by web browsers and placed on each user's device. If you have a desktop, if you have a cell phone, if you have an older cell phone model that you still have in your drawers, if you have a TV, if you have a desktop, that's what we mean by devices. Third-party cookies are created by domains. So in our industry, an example of domains can be considered publisher. A publisher is a domain like a Washington Post or CNN, or it's a network of domains, okay? But it was created to promote user experience and then was used for advertising purposes. So why are cookies semi-important for the consumer perspective? So let's go ahead and take off your marketer's hat, or I should say your marketer's crown, okay? And let's really understand from a consumer perspective why cookies were even created or used in the first place. Think about the amount of time you've logged into your Amazon app and then you've seen something like pick up where you started or see similar items, or you'll see something like pick up where you left off, or here's today's deal. So my deal of the day will be different from your deal of the day, or even different from my sister's deal of the day on her device, even though we share an account or we might share like a household or something like that, right? So that is what cookies allow publisher, network, apps, companies to do for their users, provide that user experience. And let's be frank, I'm about that life. I'm about that life, about going back into my app and finding like, oh, bet that's what I ended up. I didn't order this. Let me order it now. Or I found something cheaper, or I found something more affordable. I found something in a better color here. So so that's what cookies allow the publisher to do from a user experience perspective. Now that we understand why it was important, and it's important from a user perspective, and why it's so important for publishers. Let's go ahead and move fast forward to now, almost now, or fast forward to a few years back, actually. Our industry, the programmatic media industry, use third-party cookies like a drug. And I'm using Matt Barash's word. We use third-party cookies like a drug. We overdid it. The industry saw the opportunities to recalibrate the way we advertise by using third-party cookies to target based on online behaviors, financial economical needs, social and political affinity, in market for X. You know what I mean? So we really sold third-party cookies. So how did we really use third-party cookies to target consumers? So let's take a quick break here, right? Let's reanalyze, assess what we just discussed in the last maybe 10-ish minutes. We went ahead and focused on, let me reintroduce myself. I'm Ellen Parker. I'm Chief Programmatic Sensei of Ellen Parker Consulting, and we offer 3 to 6 month training and development program in programmatic media. We've worked with any type of agencies and brands, either trying to bring things in-house, or there's just reassessing if things are going well in-house, and then on the agency side, growing and scaling on the team as a team, as a business, for looking at revenue from an agency perspective. So we provide training that helped programmatic media focus team members or individuals really grow in terms of knowledge of the industry, but how like on the application side, on the conceptual side. So that's what we do, and that's what we love to do. And this is why I created Programmatically Correct, inspired by my good friend Ryan Williams, for naming the show. This is why I wanted to focus and give you my perspective. This is my take on demystifying what is going on in the industry by doing the research on your behalf, by breaking it down from origins to end as best as we can with the data that we have access to. And so today's conversation is focused on Google's announcement to deprecate third-party cookies. And so we identify what were cookies, which originally were based on were a piece of code on a browser. We understand now why cookies were even created or utilized on the publisher side, which is a domain, a website. It was to provide or increase or enhance, whatever you want to call. It was to enhance user experience of their own users on their website using their apps. I give the example of Amazon. So now back to the conversation at hand. How did we use third-party cookies to target consumers? So from a advertising and programmatic media perspective, how did we utilize third-party cookies? Well, that's where third-party data comes in. So slightly different. Third-party data is collected from website, and again, website here can be publishers, and it's that third-party data is collected by devices. Again, I mentioned desktop; it's a device. Your phone, all your phones, your Apple Watch is also a device now. Your Amazon Voice Echo voice is a device. All of those devices are collecting data and aggregated and put together by a third-party data provider. Keyword third party, right? It's just a data provider that just aggregate all this data together and creates comprehensive audience profiles. So what I mean by data providers, I'm referring to data management platform, aka DMPs. Some popular ones out there, or rather some really well-known, some leading DMPs I've worked with: LiveRamp, BlueKai, Experian, Polk, Autodata. They're all some form of DMPs that offer a data management product or just offer that tool for their advertisers and brands. So by aggregating data from variety of those properties, right, those DMPs are able to create comprehensive audience profile. What I mean by that is that they are able to target certain users based on their online behavior. So we don't know any personal information unless we're given permission to. We don't advertise. Third-party data does not use personal information. Now, there are cases where you can use that personal data, right? Like personal information data given by a customer to a brand or to an agency or to a company. We can use that first-party data to branch out into look-alike models that may use third-party data to match similar traits from your first-party data. But I'm going a little bit ahead here. We'll talk about first versus second versus third-party data in the next couple of weeks. But I just want you to understand that when we look at third-party data, we don't use personal information, and we have to go via a DMP or via a data provider or directly via that publisher or using our DSP, which is a demand-side platform. The demand-side platform is the technology that allows us to do the buy on the programmatic side. So here's an example. So we talk about data providers. We talk about third-party data versus third-party cookie. Here's an example. A really popular one, I actually used their data before for some clients, is Polk Automotive Data. So if you don't know, POLK Automotive Data, they're really well known for their automotive buying behaviors. How do they collect that data? You ask, here it is. They collect and analyzes data related to registration, title information, new vehicle transaction from all major manufacturers, even some financial data, like how much financial data in the sense of how much was spent on the car, maybe credit scores, that type of data, for instance. So of course, for brands and advertisers, if you're in the auto world, you would want to work for somebody like Polk Automotive. Like you could, if you're a smaller, let's say, if you are, for instance, okay, here's an example. Let me help you paint a picture. If your advertiser, if your brand is a auto shop or a local auto dealer, and you are trying to push for, I don't know, the car of the month. I'm not sure if that's relevant, but you're pushing for that particular car of the month, and you need to target relevantly. You need to target people that have owned Hondas, or let's say Hondas or Toyotas for the last 10 years. People that paid off those cars people that purchase cars anywhere between, I don't know, 2000, 2005, older model cars. You can target people that owns a specific model, purchase a certain year, all because Polk data have collected and analyzed that data, and they've made profiles for us to select from. And that data is updated depending on the vendor. I don't know how often Polk does it, but it's updated often enough that we can continue using that, and we can continue and we can confidently say we don't always, or the data is refreshed basically. So that's why third-party data became so exciting. That's why it was so sexy to advertisers and brands, especially in our industry, because now, and we love in our industry, we love to say that programmatic media allows you to target people at the right time, with the right message, at the right cost. I feel like I'm forgetting one of them. That's our thing in programmatic media. That's what we do, right? So being able to use third-party data allowed us to relevantly place that buy or place that message or the ad to those people intending for a new car. In the case of the Polk auto data example I used a few minutes ago. So that's why third-party data was such a big deal. And so when Google announced that they were getting rid of, we kind of stressed out a little bit. But before we even review why we were so flustered as an industry, let me really set the stage of the importance of third-party data in most of our media strategy. The reality is that third-party data is not the only way to target those peoples, okay? Because of this announcement is made other sort of tactics, other technology, much more sexier and attractive to an advertiser. For instance, we will review on Thursday the case of contextual targeting. That is much nicer. I mean, contextual targeting had it pros and cons, and with recent updates, I wouldn't say since Google's updates, I'm pretty sure the Washington Post was working on a technology called Zeus, which I've covered on the podcast, Programmatic Digest podcast, a couple years ago, before even 2020, before we talk of 2020 like it's before 2020. So some advertisers understood the importance, or how one thing in our industry had monopoly in terms of strategy. And so I think the Washington Post is doing great at giving us another tactic, which is contextually driven. So more on that Thursday or next week. So coming back to third-party data. So we covered how it happens based on those data providers, but originally is based on that browser cookie tracking, or that publisher or the domain cookie tracking, or again, devices cookie tracking. The positive thing is we're really able to target really relevantly, intelligently, and we will be able to measure offline and online behaviors with some of those data providers, utilizing some of those audience profiles I mentioned. The downfall of it all is the fact that the process that each data provider's devices, browsers, DSPs, DMPs, each of them have their own unique ways of measuring the same users, assigning their own unique IDs or tracking ID. Hear me out. So let's select a data provider A may ID me as XYZ, and data provider B may ID me as 3456. So it's really hard. So for those two data providers, we're ID differently, but it's almost the same user. Each of them have different capability and methodology into how they're making those audiences, how they're creating that profile. So just remember that it might have the same characteristic or traits, but it's ID differently. So we talk about fragmentation problems between when it comes to third-party data, because this provider has his own way to track a user. This provider has its own way to track a user. Then you have to add the device's ID that is unique and different from the others, and then you have to add DSP. So it's very fragmented. And actually, The trade desk call this the cookie table. So if you want to hear more about the cookie table and the methodology of it, you can look up the trade desk cookie table, and then you'll be cookie table or cookie mapping. Actually, they use those two interchangeably because each maps it differently. So a DSP helps match things, brings things together, but it's not a fair comparison. It's not like a fair mapping. So that's one of the downfall with third party data that we've come across as an industry. But please remember what we just talked about, because when we cover CTV in a couple weeks from now, we'll cover similar issue. There's a serious fragmentation, um, mm, opportunities and problems that we're discovering on the CTV world, and it's about the same. So we'll cover that also a little bit more in depth. So just remember what I just talked about, like the cookie map and cookie table is going to come up, and you'll have like aha moment when we cover CTV. So I just vomited a lot. I wanted to make sure we connect, even though from my technological um, failure this morning, but what doesn't kill us make us stronger. So now I will remember to press the go live button. This is a remixed from from the live version, which happened to be on Instagram. And even so, on Instagram, unfortunately, I lost sound. So the last 8 minutes or so of the presentation on Instagram, it's quiet. There's no sound. So thank you so much for all your support. The article version will be out tomorrow morning, which is Tuesday. Super excited for you to read it, but also for you to review this. If you have any questions about the stats, or just like something I need to clarify for you, please feel free to DM me. This is a judgment-free zone, and it's no strings attached. The reason why I'm doing programmatically correct, demystifying the industry from a different perspective, is because I understand that there's a lot going on. There's a lot of there's a lot of things going on, and we need help to like take a step back, take a breather, digest one at a time. So have the next couple of days to review the information. I'm always here to provide training and development, of course, on the go. As a day-to-day, but you can always send me questions. You can always reach out to me. Info at Helene Parker. Don't call me Helene. You know I'm Ellen. HELENEPARKER.com. And then I'm very active on any social media, as you know. You can also scan, wait, it'll be this way. You can also scan this right here, and then you'll go straight to the website. You'll also go on the website, you'll be able to find additional information about how to find me, how to get in contact with me. So thank you for making the time. Again, my name is Ellen Parker. I'm the Chief Programmatic Sensei of Ellen Parker Consulting, where we offer customizable training in programmatic media for individuals and teams. And I'll end with the fact that we are creating also a community called the Programmatic Meetup, where we'll talk twice a month. And it's a 1 hour, and it's a closed community where it's a safe environment for programmatic buyers, data analysts, and everyone else that in our industry to just meet up and talk shop, like really talk shop. So I'm honored to have this opportunity. I'm super grateful that you even looked at this. And I like to end with a word of wisdom. Last week, I told you to delegate something. I'm going to emphasize the delegation again. Delegate something, write down everything that's important, grade it based on urgent, important, and non-urgent and non-important. And whatever is important but not urgent, delegate. Delegate, because you're going to gain that time back. So this week's word of wisdom is that don't be afraid to ask question. Be humble enough to ask question. Okay, this is your time. This is a time that I'm creating for you to gain and hopefully help you understand a few things about our industry. You might be a digital marketer, you might be a traditional media marketer that is trying to expand their skill set. You might be an SEO but trying to understand the advertising side of things but want to take it easy. This is a great opportunity for you to tune in and really understand different things. And of course, I offer one-on-one, of course, but this is like a great show for you to tune in. So thank you so much. Go live your best life. Go delegate. Okay. Stay humble enough to ask all the questions. There is no dumb questions. The only dumb questions that are those that are not asked. So have an amazing day, and hopefully I will see you Thursday, same time, noon Eastern time, GMT -4. I think we're still in -4 right now, on all social media. But just in case, scan right here. Have a good one, y'all.